Hey guys, and welcome to Top Channel One-on-One, and today we're doing another image to animation render. So this is by Sarah Drenner, and last time we did this here and you guys seem to like it. If you want to watch more of this, make sure to subscribe, leave a like, and so that you don't miss out. Check out the project files on Patreon and on my Gumroad page. Yeah, so this is what we have. You can see the project is very simple. We have the different branches. The branches are done using geometry nodes, and each branch has the same instance of geometry nodes, but it just have these exposed values, like the animation of the branch, which is just a trim value, like that. Then the others grow off of it, and it's just a timing thing. So for example, if I wanted to create another branch, for example here, if I grab this branch and added it there, give it a slight rotation, you can see all of the others grow and it doesn't. And another thing I did is parented each branch to the main branch, and then each leaf on the branch is a separate object but parented to its branch. So this to this, and the orange are also parented to that. When we play back, you can see this one is still floating because it doesn't have the animation. We have this trim animation. All you have to do is time the main branch animation. So when it starts around there, I can start animating this. So we start at 1, and then we can grow this to its full length, just like that. And each branch has a few leaves, so I'm going to duplicate this to show you how I animated that. I can just have this at that bud, and I need to parent it to the branch it's attached to. So Control P, keep transform, and give it a nice rotation, maybe scale it down, and we're good. Yeah, and the main branch has a slight rotation animation to it, like that, and that sells the animation a bit better. To animate the leaves, that's easy. So it's also another timing thing. Come at around here, set a keyframe. Let me turn on my keyframe recording, hit S, and no, maybe you could put this at around 90, and then at frame 60 we can scale this to 0 so that it's totally not around, and then it grows like that. Now you can add in some bouncing animation. For example, for this branch, each branch has a slight bounce to it, if you notice it. So what I did, because these are parented to the main branch, I can, and its pivot point is at the end there, I can easily add some nice animation. So I can make it bounce a bit, so slightly down, and then slightly back up, and then slowly slightly back down, and then even slower, slightly back up. So now we can get a nice bouncy effect. You can see it very nicely here. It goes up and then down. We can do this for the leaf after it grows. Yeah, I did the same trick on the orange. The pivot point is at the tip there. It's attached to this branch, so when this is rotated, it also gets the animation. And I set these keyframes. It starts out at the scale of 0 and then grows to its full scale, and I give it a slight rotation. Same with this here, and we get that. Okay, now let's go to the can. So I have a time lapse of the full process of creating this on my second channel, that is Top Channel One-on-One 2. If you want to look at the time lapse of the whole process, that's where you will see how I made this orange and this can here. But I want to show you how to make it wrap onto the mesh. I want to wrap this onto this. All you have to do for this is create a plane. I'll rotate it, subdivide it a few times, or even use a subdivision surface. I just push it slightly behind this, and now you can come to this and give it a deform surface, deform, and then hit bind, and that will bind this to this. Okay, make sure to apply the scale of both objects. Okay, so it seems that the surface deform doesn't work when this has a subdivision surface. So what you can do is make sure this doesn't have a subdivision surface, and then add the deform, surface deform, and then select this as a target, bind, and now when we move this around, you can see it deforms as we want. So you can parent this to this, and then Control P. Now we can move this anywhere on this surface to something like that. And now we can project this onto this orange using deform, shrink wrap, and selecting this as the target. You can see now that deforms really nicely. One thing you will notice is that the inside here is dark, like it's empty in there. So for that, what I did is just came into edit mode and selected the faces around here, gave them a transparent material. That's what gave us that. So we ended up having that. And I think it was time for the simulation. So the simulation is the easiest part. Create the inflow object. I'll just use a plane. You have to parent it onto these so that it's also moving or animated with the orange. And now we only need a domain object. The bigger you make your domain object, the more time it would take to simulate. So we have our domain, and I'm just trying to make sure that everything is within our domain. Okay, so that's good. So I can set this up as our domain. So fluid, domain, liquid. You don't need any border collisions for this. Can have this at 120 and can come back here. Let me first hide this. Select my, select this, use a fluid, flow, liquid, inflow, and since it's just a flat plane, you can use isPlanner and set the initial velocity to something like 10 so that the fluid is ejected out. Now if we simulate this, let's see how that looks. So all of these frames we're simulating, the fluid should not start right away, so we're just wasting time there. So I'm going to start the simulation at around frame 90. So start the simulation at frame 90, and I want this, our inflow object, to also start powering the liquid at frame, let's say frame 92. So I can animate the inflow to start to be on at frame 92. So it's off at frame 92 and then on at frame 93 there. So if we play back, you can see the simulation starts there and everything starts powering like that. Also have to time your glass. So let me just move these keyframes a bit back so that we match our simulation. And your glass should be an effector fluid type with isPlanner on, so that the liquid can flow in. You can turn on meshing. So perfect. Let me hide the particles for now. Okay, our timing is still a bit off, but you get the point. And another thing is this fluid has to turn off at some point. So you'd maybe turn off at 155. So that's just by animating the inflow to be off, just like that, and that will turn it off. The branch is just a simple curve, and if it doesn't have geometry nodes, that's how it looks. And each branch is slightly different, but you create a curve and then, but you see without geometry nodes, it's really smooth, and you don't expect trees to be that smooth. You expect them to have those sharp corners like that. They look more organic. So to do that, so this is the original curve. I resampled it to reduce the count, the polygon count. You can see when I increase them, 13 was good enough. So the animation of the branch is driven by this trim. So this here is the trim. I export the start, and that is what is driving this. Okay, then you set the radius to give it that is radius. But to see the effects of the radius, you have to convert the curve into a mesh and give it a curve circle like that. So we have something like that. So without the set radius, if I mute it, you see it's simply something like this. Now if I add a set radius, you see, and I'm using a spline parameter. If you set the factor directly in, you get something like this. I wanted to have a little bit more control, so I used a float curve to adjust this, and I can shrink it as in any way I want. But I wanted each branch to have its own thickness, so I used a multiply value and exposed the second value as value 2. That way I can adjust the branch size for each branch separately from the others. I wanted to add these thorns and buds, so I distributed a bunch of points onto the curve. I instanced these buds here, which are in a collection on the points. give them a random scale, and the rotation is just from the distribution, and join them to the original branch there. Another thing you will notice is that we have this other setup here, up here. It's mainly for these smaller branches. You can see it's just for their buds or attachment here. Yeah, it makes them feel like they are growing out of something. So to do that, it's just you get the curve and instance these buds. Let me first remove the selection. These buds onto the curve, but you use the endpoint selection to select the last point, and that's how you get that. I'm just using the normal to align, to set the rotation of these buds to the correct rotation, and I'm scaling them down a bit. Then joining back to that and setting the material, so we have something like that. That's it. Let me know what you think in the comments, and we'll see what we can follow up with this. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Materials are the best way to add detail, but detailed materials can get complicated really quickly. One easy trick is the use of decals, like this quick decals add-on. Here you are not really working on the material or object directly, but the add-on wraps a decal onto the mesh. This can have decals like damaged posters, dirt, rain damage, smudge, and more.